You know, it might just be me that feels this way. Wouldn't be the first time probably that I've shared a sentiment that's unique to me on this program, but
Won't be the last.
it won't be the last either. That's indeed correct. But this week has flown by, right?
Yeah, I would agree. But I mean, do you think that the two classes outside, aka the two shows on remote, helped that mentally for you?
No
'Cause
question.
it did for me, no doubt.
No doubt. A lot of fun yesterday out at the Indiana State Fair at the Dairy Bar. Thank you to those who came by to say hello. And then, of course, we were at Colts camp on what day was that? Monday we were at camp?
Yeah.
See, that feels like 2 days ago. But, when Shane Steichen, and thank you to the Colts for helping us out there with their hospitality, it is hard to believe that we are now in the final chapters, if you will, of Grand Park before the Colts not only recess for, I guess technically it's a game day Friday, right? As preseason football gets underway.
A Blue Friday, if you will, Jake.
That's right. Blue Friday indeed. And then, they come back to West 56. Then before you know it, we are playing games for real. But good afternoon to you on a Friday. It's not a Blue Friday. It's a Blue Friday from a Colts standpoint, but it's a joyous Friday, right?
Indeed.
Gorgeous outside, at least it was when I came in here. Not as humid. Nice out. My understanding is tonight 45 degrees. It's going to be 45 degrees tonight. Did you hear that?
I did not hear that.
Crack open the windows. Great rack out weather. And we have a big show lined up for you today. The Colts practiced and got done practicing about an hour ago. Eddie, you said that by the accounts you had read that it was a good practice today of note for Alec Pierce, correct?
That is correct.
And since Alec is the name of your only buddy, not Alec Pierce, but what's your buddy, your friend, your only friend, Alec, what's his last name?
Roar.
What is it?
Roar, like a lion roars.
Really?
Yes. He's not listening today, by the way.
Why not?
He's in Las Vegas.
Okay, so your former only friend, Alec Roar.
He's in recovery.
You think he's still awake or still asleep?
He's awake.
Okay.
He's in recovery, though.
What do you mean he's in recovery?
He went to the Morgan Wallen concert last night.
Oh, so not
It's only 9 o'clock out there. Why is he up?
He is an early riser.
Okay.
Apparently. But Alec Pierce had a big day in camp, and then you said you're trying to line him up. What time did they tell you they think he might be able to call in?
27 minutes from now.
Okay, so bottom of the hour for Alec Pierce?
That would be correct.
Very cool. All right, Alec Pierce will join us on the program coming up at 12:30 today on this Friday. My name is Jake Query. That's the voice of Eddie Garrison. Jimmy Cook here as well. It is Query & Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And let's begin with this. Yesterday when we were on the air, it bridged over between our show and into John's. And I've given this a lot of thought in terms of Team USA and Serbia. And listen, I want to apologize, honestly, and I don't mean this flippantly or sarcastically. I want to legitimately apologize for this. To me, it was a fait accompli that the USA would be in the gold medal games, or gold medal game, I should say, in basketball. And yes, I am well aware of the United States and its basketball history, and in particular with some of the challenges when it goes against other countries of, a dream team, not the dream team, but teams that are assembled. There's a trick in the way that they're assembled and how that I get all of that. But I aired yesterday in number one, a little bit of a challenge because it was on while we were on. At least I think that it began right as we were signing off. But I think probably undersold the challenge for Team USA because I made the joke that it felt like they'd played Serbia 9 times. They played them obviously in the, we'll call them friendlies to use a soccer term, before the Olympics itself. But this is a team with which they were very familiar.
Steve Kerr called this, by the way, and I mentioned the quote yesterday. I'm not saying he called the dramatic fashion in which the game would go, but he said he felt like that they might be playing possum Serbia in terms of, I'm not going to say not showing their hand, but that was a completely different Serbian performance when it mattered in an elimination game versus, to your point, Jake, what you got in the showcase and what you got in group play. It was a completely different performance.
Here's what I think as a challenge for Team USA. And I apologize that we didn't get more in-depth on this yesterday because I don't know perhaps that I really gave it a lot of thought going into yesterday. So Serbia kind of woke me up as well. I don't know the Serbian national team well, obviously, right? I'm not watching a lot of international basketball where I'm watching what Serbia is doing. And I know it's Serbia and Montenegro. I mean, there's a lot that goes in, just politically speaking in terms of the teams that it's had over the years in terms of its history with the political climate alone in that region of the world. But we know that there are very good players over there. Bogdan Bojanovic, who is, I believe, an Atlanta Hawk, or most recently I think was an Atlanta Hawk, really good player. Obviously, it goes without saying, Nikola Jokic, one of the best players in the NBA. They're very, very good players for that country. But the thing that is different between Team USA and other countries that I should have expanded upon yesterday going into this as kind of a proceed with caution. But it's easy to say that retroactively because they struggled yesterday. And Steph Curry and LeBron James both were spectacular down the stretch in helping the United States win. But the difference is this, Jimmy. In other countries, you represent in basketball your national team, and if you play, and a lot of times playing well in the international level and representing your country is what gets you then into the platform that allows you to become an NBA player. A lot of times these NBA players, they are discovered because people are watching them. I remember when the World Basketball Championships were here in 2002. I've told the story that there was a group of TV reporters from San Antonio that were here, and I'm like, and they were working out of Channel 6, and I'm like, why are you guys covering the World Basketball Championships? And they said, oh, because the Spurs just drafted this guy, Manu Ginobili, from Argentina that's playing in these games. And they knew of Manu Ginobili from watching Argentina throughout international competition. Obviously, in the NBA, they scout anywhere and everywhere all the time. But what I'm saying is this. A lot of other countries, and I assume this is the case with the Serbian national team, their national teams are assembled not for just one particular set of games, but over the course of multiple years. So when you see, like if you look at the 2016 or the history of the Serbian men's national team and the different eras that they've had and what they've done recently, they didn't qualify for the 2020 Summer Olympics. They lost in the qualifying tournament, I think, to Italy. But the roster is very much the same as what it is now. Whereas the United States with Team USA, the different events that Team USA enters, they change their lineup from one to the next. Because here, it's if you are an NBA player, you play in the NBA and you're an NBA star, and being a star at the NBA level allows you the opportunity to play for your national team. With other countries, playing for your national team and being a star within it allows you the opportunity to play in the NBA. So, while the United States may have more individual talent, the biggest challenge that they have is oftentimes they're going against national teams that have much more chemistry and symmetry and understanding of playing on the floor. LeBron James is an unbelievable player. Kevin Durant's an unbelievable player. Tyrese Halliburton is an unbelievable player. But in terms of this scope with this group of players on the floor, how long have they realistically been playing together? 15 games, 20 games, this particular installment of it. So I just think that becomes the challenge. In the end, the talent wins out, and it did yesterday. But they are again going to go now for the gold medal against France, and you have not only the challenge of elite level. I mean, they're going to have to win gold by beating a guy that, quite frankly, is right on the cusp of being one of the top 5 players in the NBA in Victor Wembanyama, which within 5 years from now, he may well be the best player in the league. Then you throw in Rudy Gobert, you throw in Fournier, other guys that can hit, and the crowd itself.
Yep.
It is a challenge for Team USA. The most talented team in the world, no question about it. But in terms of the core of team, they still have one big challenge in front of them.
Yeah, and some of that aspect of team building varies from international club to club because...
You can say team, it's basketball.
Okay, either way. You can take tomato. Doesn't matter. But the NBA roster continues to be seen in different corners of the world to the point that that disadvantage that Team USA has, like you mentioned, Jake, of just being thrown together and only having 5, 10, 15 games or so to get acclimated to one another. You're seeing a little bit of that more with different international teams because of the expansion of the game and because of representation around the NBA to these other countries. It's why there was the big controversy of where, say, Joel Embiid would play his Olympic basketball career and him being a part of Team USA. And by the way, even though it's a roller coaster with Embiid, he winds up being quite the catalyst in that run as well, even though it felt like yesterday every time he would do something good and I was like, yeah, way to go, Joel, then he would do something bad and be like, man, what is this guy doing out there? Why are we not getting more Bam Adebayo or Anthony Davis? One of my favorite college analysts, Fran Fraschilla, was asked this yesterday on Twitter, and he kind of highlighted, for those of you that maybe are taken aback at how the international stage appears to have caught up from the United States, he highlights a number of different things. Even before the Dream Team, he mentions the fact that guys like Dr. Jack Ramsey and Chuck Daly, Hubie Brown, Dean Smith, etc., were going all over the world and having international camps and teaching the game of basketball, and the basketball without borders messaging from the NBA the last 15 to 20 years. It's taken a generation or so, sure, but it's there now. And I'm not giving a pass to Team USA, but you're seeing more and more often, instead of it being once every 8 years, oh, this Spanish team is really good, this could be dangerous. Now it's, well, it's Spain, it's Germany, it's Serbia, it's France. And look, that's good. Like, ultimately, it is good for the game of basketball. It might not be good in terms of our high level of patriotism and wanting to see the United States win gold every single year, but if you're just a basketball fan and an NBA fan in particular, it is good to see that gap closed from what you're seeing in the best league in the world, because you're getting another influx in a generation of talent. All that said, man, this generation, and especially for the back half of my youth and Eddie's youth as a basketball fan, and people in that 20 to 30 age range, to be able to see that level of adversity that Team USA faced yesterday, and the three biggest faces of basketball throughout our childhoods, save the late Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James, are leading the charge for that epic comeback and have punched the ticket to gold. To be able to see arguably the best player of that group, the best scorer of that group, and the best shooter of that group play their roles to a T together on this dynamic Team USA roster was really special for me. It felt like, and it won't end until they win gold, but it felt like the encapsulation, and there's been great compilation videos of this as well, of all the rivalries, all the buildup, all the journeys of both KD, Steph, and LeBron, of what the three of them have been on the last 20-plus years or so to get to this moment of playing together and now being on the doorstep to win gold. It was really special yesterday.
I think one of the things that makes, and this is part of the beauty of the Olympics, okay? We as fans, I think there's a disconnect at times. Salaries are a big part of this. And what I mean is the following. Whether you're talking about baseball, basketball, football, Kansas City Steve, Chiefs fan Steve, right? We went to the Indians game on Sunday together. Wonderful time. And I was asking about Major League Baseball, and I said, okay, I'm going to try to guess your favorite team. And he said, okay, go ahead. And I gave a couple guesses, and then he said, well, the answer is none, because I gave up on baseball after they had back-to-back strikes in a 12-year period, work stoppages. And not uncommon. I mean, there are a lot, baseball in general, we've talked about that. The greed of baseball drove people away.
That's why we get panicky anytime there's a CBA for football or basketball, because you worry that those errors will be repeated.
The basketball lockout that happened, they were at least smart enough to get that resolved to where they had a shortened season, but they still played a season. And the only negative that really came out of that was it allowed the New York Knicks to get to the finals that year, which was a complete buzzkill, and the Pacers should have gone, but I digress. But nonetheless, the salaries in the NBA, you hear people say, well, those guys just make so much money. And in the NFL contracts they're not into that category, but they're starting to get there from the quarterbacking standpoint. And the NFL has also managed to avoid the NFLPA, I remember the strike, and people around here loved the strike because it allowed the Colts to win their first divisional title because Gary Hogaboom crossed the picket line, never went on strike, and they won 2 of the 3 games or whatever it was, and before you know it, bada boom, bada bing, the Colts are hanging a banner. But the greed of sports is the one thing that oftentimes sports fans most often feel, aside from when players get political. The overall greed in the salary is the one thing that illuminates to people the gap between themselves and athletes, and the gap between athletes and the real world. And so people get disengaged because they feel there is not a connection to them. They feel that the athletes, even though they might have grown up in more humble backgrounds, the athletes now live in a world that the fan can no longer relate to. When you see yesterday the end of the game of Steph Curry and LeBron James emotionally embracing one another, and LeBron grabbing Steph by the back of his head to look at him and say, like, we did it. We survived this battle where we were down 16 in the second half, where we were down 5 with 7 minutes to go, down 7 with 5 minutes to go. And we rallied together, and I had a triple-double, and you had 36, I think it was, and we did it. We got 1 left to go, but we did it. And in that moment, they looked like all of us with our buddy trying to win an intramural game or a sectional game or a backyard driveway game, a horse, or whatever it might be, and that people relate to that. That's the beauty of the Olympics, is it strips away a lot of the other BS and at its core just presents the athletes as the everyday guy or gal that understands the benefit of representing the team that we all collectively can root for. And that's what Jimmy was on display yesterday, and that's why these games are held every 4 years, quite frankly. That's why the Olympics are what they are. It's not about seeing the great record performances, which it is. I mean, that also is a benefit, but it is the underdog story or the story of the main headliner favorite in a brief moment looking like an underdog and acting like the underdog. That's what's great about it. And that's what makes it relatable.
That and look, we want this show as a whole to be a place where we educate and entertain, and it's an escape, and you can just, sit around and talk sports for a couple of hours and get in the know with your local community. But there is a level, at least for me anyway, if you care about sports, doesn't matter what your favorite sport is, if it's involved in the Olympics, there's a sense of camaraderie and civic pride that comes every 4 years with seeing your team represented on the biggest stage. It's not just in the Olympics, other global sports as well. The World Cup gets this. That's why, I'm always infatuated with Copa America when the United States men's national team is involved, or when the women's national team is going for a gold medal like they are this weekend. And you see it on display with both women's basketball and men's basketball right now. There was a sense of, I don't know what else to call it other than patriotism, of seeing Team USA yesterday in that moment where it looks like you're down and out going into the fourth quarter. And somebody had tweeted I saw this yesterday, because of the juggernaut the United States is in men's basketball, at least perceived to be, it can feel somewhat icky if you love the underdog aspect of March Madness, where you're like, man, feels like I was rooting for the Monstars, is the tweet I saw yesterday, Jake, because they're so talented. And here's Serbia, like this would be an all-time moment for them. But yeah, to get that little taste of being at a deficit, being an underdog, if you will, based on the margin of deficit that you're up against, and to see them overcome it. And like I mentioned, to see the pillars of the sport the last 15 years in Kevin Durant, in Steph Curry, in LeBron James be so important to that comeback. It was just, have me get a USA chant going on in the house, man. It was great.
The most famous moment in Olympic history. Let me rephrase that. Of the modern Olympic history. And by modern, I mean, I'm going post-World War II. I know that modern would mean like Greek Olympics, but of the modern era in sport. So let's say the 1950s and forward. What's the most famous moment in Olympic history? winter or summer. The most famous moment in Olympic history, unquestionably. Eddie?
Tommy Smith
Yeah.
and John Carlos, probably.
Very high up there. I'd say that's in the mix, but it's a winter event.
Okay. Then I don't think that I have it.
The Winter Olympics.
Miracle.
Miracle on Ice.
Yeah. Sorry.
The 1980 Miracle on Ice is the most famous moment in modern Olympic history, certainly in American Olympic history.
Yep.
The greatest moment in that, to me, which usually means factually, the greatest moment in that upset.
To the world.
Well, yeah, probably to the world, but certainly to the United States, was not Mike Eruzione's goal. It was not Jim Craig saving for the 30th time a shot on goal. It was not Al Michaels with a minute left saying, the crowd's going insane, because he couldn't think of what to say. And it was not the incredible line of, do you believe in miracles? Yes. The most underrated and subtle but poignant moment of that, the greatest moment in the Olympics, was as the Americans were going bonkers and they're going crazy and they're throwing their stick into the crowd and they're hugging each other and they're cheering. During all of that, the Russian team, who had been the most dominant hockey country and team in the world for years, were all standing there, resting against their sticks, watching it and taking it all in and absorbing it with the same level of appreciation as people in Lake Placid, New York, and Fullerton, California, and in all corners of the United States. And the Russians have said the reason that they were doing that is because they had become so programmed, so used to, and so regimented towards winning that they forgot about the joy that comes with it, because it had become a routine and a job and an expectation. And for them to see the pure joy of sport, of victory, they wanted themselves to soak it in because it had been so long since they felt that. And yesterday, for a team in a country that is so great in basketball, you saw two players that were showing that they themselves still had within them the relief, the joy, and the thrill of victory, which I simply thought was very, very cool. Alec Pierce had a good day, apparently, out at Colts camp today, and it's a big year for him. I want to ask him about that. Do you know of the – surely he's got to know, right? Do you know of the expectation on you and the pressure? Do you feel the pressure? He is set to join us just a couple minutes. You said they're going to call in just a minute here, Eddie?
Yes, sir.
All right, Alec Pierce apparently going to join in. Call in. We will talk to him on the other side here on this Friday edition of Query & Company 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. It is a Friday. Thanks again for joining us. My name is Jake Query. Jimmy Cook, the other voice you hear. Eddie Garrison is manning the controls. It is Query and Company here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And joining us now on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest line after what I understand was a very prolific day of practice out in Grand Park. We're talking about Alec Pierce, the third-year wide receiver for the Colts. Alec, my understanding is today you were all over the place, had a touchdown, a bunch of receptions. Things are going great. Fair assumption?
Yeah, it was a great day for us today. You know, for the offense as a whole, we moved the ball well. We made plays. So it's a good day, good last day of practice before our first preseason game. So excited to get back out there and, showcase a little bit.
Year 3 for you. And, there's been a lot of expectation on you, obviously, from the time that you arrived here. But for you personally, year 3 feels different than year 2 or year 1 in what way?
I think knowing exactly what's expected of me and knowing what I got to do, what I got to work on to be better, and just kind of having goals for myself as a player in terms of like what I needed to get better at and work on that in the off season and try to come in and know exactly what I need to do to become a better player for this football team.
Tell me what those things were that you felt like going into you needed to work on. Yeah,
I think I worked a lot on this offseason just on my route tree and continued to get more detailed in my routes and more, working on different types of moves, stuff like that to create separation and be cleaner at the top of routes.
Alec, how much of your game is transformed when you have somebody that has the arm strength that Anthony Richardson possesses?
Oh, it's a lot, because I think my greatest strength as a receiver comes in playing the ball down the field, and that having a quarterback that can throw the ball anywhere on the field, make all those tough throws, long throws, that just opens up, especially for me mostly playing on the outside. I'm usually a longer throw or downfield. It's gonna be a long throw. So it makes all those throws and all those plays possible. Opens up the playbook.
Last year you had to adapt with Gardner Minshew. If something, which we hope not, knock on wood, but if something was to happen to Anthony Richardson, what traits of Joe Flacco are still able to unlock the best part of your game?
Yeah, Joe's a super talented player. He's got a cannon. He can make all the throws down the field. And he's a great leader. I think he's been a great guy just for our offense to have and kind of mentor Anthony a little bit. So he's been a great addition, and he's a fun guy to play with. Besides that, the team.
Alec Pierce is our guest. He's on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest line. Alec, I want to go back to that a little bit. When you look at your career, so you come in, you have Matt Ryan. Then, a year after that, you think you're going to have Anthony Richardson. You end up with Gardner Minshew, who played well for you guys. Now you're back to Anthony Richardson. The lack of consistency in terms of who's throwing you the ball, at nobody's fault, admittedly, but is it difficult as a receiver to have to kind of readjust from one quarterback to the next to the next?
Yeah, that's good. I think the biggest thing would just be the chemistry in terms of you see it league wide. You see guys kind of get rolling, and they have those games, those 2, 3, 4 games in a row where they may have a really big game, where they kind of get on that same page with their quarterback and they're really feeling themselves. And I think just with the change in the quarterbacks, it kind of if the change in the quarterbacks can kind of change that up, and maybe break up that rhythm you get. So that would probably be the biggest thing. But I love playing with all those quarterbacks, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of them. They're all great players that had, different skill sets, but we're great guys to play with still.
How long does it take to truly feel, a connection to a quarterback, just in terms of the chemistry or from a football standpoint, being able to finish the other one's sentence? In other words, knowing exactly what they're thinking instinctively and vice versa. That takes how long?
I think it's all relative. I think it depends. I think the older you get as a receiver, the more years you've been doing it, the more quarterbacks you've played with. It probably will come along a little quicker because you might know you're probably doing the right types of things then. Okay, they break the pocket, I'm scrambling here, I'm doing that. Because, most quarterbacks are probably taught the same type of things and know that type of stuff. So, definitely the more you play, I think the easier it is to get on the same page as the quarterback. But I think also then, it can't be just if you get your guy and once you guys build that trust in each other, I think it definitely kind of know to like, okay, I can throw them here, or he's going to be here, he's going to break here, and it's just going to make it where it's like, you're able to make those tough plays just because you like kind of believe in each other and know where they're going to be.
Here's a weird question, and it's going to illuminate that I never played wide receiver at the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, Alec Pierce, when you look at or you study film and you go through your reps, which is a more critical first 2 seconds of a play for a wide receiver? The first 2 seconds off the line or the final 2 seconds when the ball's in the air coming towards you?
Oh, I'd say the final 2 seconds. I mean, you got like, if that includes like the top of the route and like getting open, I mean, Red says it all the time. Like, it doesn't. He said he won't ever like get on us about a route or anything if it's a completion. So like it can be, sometimes it might not look pretty, but if that last 2 seconds you catch the ball and make the play like it needs to be made, that's all. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Most of the times you don't even see on TV what the route even looks like. So, like you'll know. Like that's the thing about football is like sometimes you can run the best route and something happens. Maybe another guy got open, they threw it to him, or maybe the quarterback gets sacked or the ball gets tipped or something like that. And other times you can run a not so good route and just perfect ball, you make a good catch. And yeah, that's why it's tough to be a cornerback because a lot of things are out of your control. Same with receiver, but at least for the ones usually making the play.
Colts wide receiver Alec Pierce is our guest. He joined us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Alec, how is your role in the entire wide receiver room impacted if Josh Downs is forced to miss some regular season time?
I think it'll allow me to step up and kind of we'll probably all move around a little bit more. It's really early, and I don't know. That's all on the doctors and trainers
Sure.
and all that. But I think we're gonna all have to kind of step up to make up for his absence while he misses some time here in the preseason. And just it'll be good for us to kind of get reps at different positions and do some different types of routes. So.
Your playmaking ability, Alec Pierce, in college in particular, and then a year ago, look, you had a hell of a play, obviously, that kind of saved the day in Nashville. So fans are aware of it. They know of your home run ability. But at the same time, there's been big microscope on you. And the outside, and I'm talking about people that are not on the field at Grand Park, but the outside narrative has been, is this the year for Alec Pierce? Is this the breakout? Do you feel that? Are you aware of that expectation and scrutiny?
For me, I just try to control myself. I try to take it day by day and work on what I can control because, like I said, I can't control anything but what I do for myself, whether that's running a route, creating separation, because all those other unknowns, getting the ball thrown to you, getting the route called to you, that's not things I can control. So I just try to come out here every day, put my best self on film, create separation, make plays when the ball's thrown to me. And
I understand that there's, you guys are all competitors. It's why you're at the level where you are.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you get into the room with the other receivers, and there's competition individually, but you're also collectively trying to win as a team. I get all of that. What was your reaction to seeing a wide receiver taken high in A.D. Mitchell and a guy that, quite truthfully, if it comes to depth chart level, you're competing against?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, I was kind of something I'm expecting. That's what they do every year in this league. They're always trying to, bring people in, make the room better, make the team better. So it's nothing new. That's the same way it goes in college. That's just sports. It's a competitive world. And AD's a great player. He's going to make our football team a lot better. He's a great addition to the room. Adds, I think, a different type of playmaker in that room. So, I'm excited to play with him as a teammate, and I don't at all look at it as like a me versus him type situation. I truly believe that we can both impact this team in a positive way and make plays for the team.
When you look at the perfect Alec Pierce play, like if you envision it, if somebody says, tell me and walk me through the play that you were created to make,
yeah,
what kind of play is that?
I'd say it's like, balls on Ball's right on midfield. Out to the field in like a stack formation, double quarters defense, double post. They throw it up, go up and catch on top of somebody for a touchdown.
Now, I've always wondered this, Alec. This would be the big buzzkill of being a receiver. Are there ever plays that are designed where you're a decoy and you've got to do like a long 40-yard sprint out, and you know even with that the ball's likely not coming to you, and you think to yourself, this is a lot of energy I'm expending here?
All the time.
So, when that happens, but you got to sell it, right? You got to go through the motions as if I guess you never know when a play's going to break down and it's still going to come your way, right? You got to go through it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, you just got to, you do it for the love of your teammates, the love of your team. Like I know I got a clear out route here for Josh to catch something underneath. Like I'm gonna run it hard so that I get the defender out of there. So that if he catches it and maybe his defender misses the tackle, or he had separation, he gets by his defender. Like my defender, I don't want my defender to be there to make the play. So I'm gonna run my guy off and run hard, make sure he follows me and help the team out.
Colts wide receiver Alec Pierce joins us. He's presented by Shelby Materials, the concrete and aggregate experts, and he's joining us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Alec, you fit the demographic for this question, so if it's a simple no, we'll move on. But you and I are separated by about 5 years. I'm wondering, in camp and as a Cincinnati Bearcat, has the return of college football 25 at all been involved in camp in terms of off the field?
Yeah, well, I think we have. I see they have an Xbox or PlayStation down in the hotel lobby. People are playing. I haven't got on NCAA at all. They got. I'll play right next to it. They got a Golden Tee machine, so I'll
nice.
watch some guys play games. I'll be playing the Golden Tee, watching. Because it's usually it's a pretty big like. There's only one Xbox and it's a pretty popular one right there, but the Golden Tee's usually open. So
who's the best player? Who's your best teammate on Golden Tee?
Oh man, I've been battling with Drew Ogletree a lot. But the trainers, shout out all the sports medicine trainers, like they're really good because they'll come home. They don't have curfew, so which is crazy because I think they get up at like 6 a.m. to come in and stuff. But when they get home late, and I think they stay up late playing it and then get up and go. I don't know. Those guys got just infinite energy. So
speaking of trainers, do you get a chance in the off season to let your body kind of, in other words, do you ever get to just be a dude, or are you training 365 days a year?
I mean, I think for myself, like just like my personality and like what I enjoy to do is be active. But I definitely took I try to take a few weeks after the season to definitely be away from football type stuff. But I'm still like I went on some vacations and I was very doing active type things, walking around, hiking type stuff like that. But I think we weren't in the playoffs, so probably until at least the Super Bowl, I wasn't doing any football type training.
Did you vacation anywhere? What's the coolest place you vacationed?
Oh, it's crazy. I went to Japan this year, because my older brother was playing professional basketball over there. So I went and visited him. Went with old Colts player too, Des Patman. He met me out there, and that was wild because I'd never been we went to Germany last year. But that was the first time I'd been kind of on a big trip overseas. But I was for a day for the game, But Japan was the first time really going out of the country like that. So that was an experience for sure because I just know from my brother's played overseas for 4 years, so he's been 50 countries, and he's like, this will be the biggest culture shock to you.
Now, well, I've not been to Japan. I've been overseas, but not to Japan.
Yeah.
What was the craziest thing you ate? Because you had to eat something crazy there, right?
Yeah, I actually really liked. I tried all I forget what type of sushi it's called, but it was just the big raw strip of fish. But I actually really liked the eel. It kind of looked terrifying, but my brother was like, "Trust me, try it," and that was my favorite thing.
Wow. So, okay. So not the electric eel, just standard eel, by the way. Do you want to make sure?
I don't know. It could have been the electric eel. It didn't grab me though.
A little bit of a jolt there, right, with the meal.
Yeah.
Alec, lastly, preseason game number 1 upcoming. My understanding is you guys are going to play, and I'm putting you into that starting mix, a series or two. What do you know, or what can you tell us as to what we are going to see coming up this weekend and what you're looking to accomplish?
Yeah, we'll be out there. Hopefully come out there, put together a few good drives, and then pass the ball over to the young guys to showcase themselves. But yeah, we'll definitely be out there, and hopefully, look good, play sharp that first half or however many drives. I'm not the coach. I don't really know, but I know we'll be playing. So, it'll be exciting.
It's more fun than running around on the practice field every day, probably. Not as fun as eating eel, but it is a preseason game. That's right. Alec, we appreciate it. Best of luck. We look forward to talking to you over the course of the year and certainly appreciate the time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Alec Pierce, third-year wide receiver of the Colts, joining us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest line, and, of course, that conversation courtesy of Shelby Materials. Really good stuff there on this Friday. Eddie, we still have a loaded show to get to today. Give me the rundown of who else will be joining us after now we have had the third-year receiver joining us today.
We'll have Kyle Nedrip there. If I turn my mic on, that may help. Kyle Nedrip at 1:30 preview the high school football season. I think he's actually joining us from the state fair. So you guys were out there yesterday. He's out there today. And then Kevin Bowen at 2 o'clock. We'll probably preview that Denver Broncos game on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts in the first preseason game. And then, of course, Good for the Heart Friday.
All right. I love it. Good for the Heart Friday. We're off to a good start, as a matter of fact, here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Eddie, that fascinates me, and I always appreciate that when I do these Twitter polls, you clearly notice them because then you come back. But you usually find this one not necessarily as much. A lot of times you'll play like alternate versions of the songs in which I put out there. But this is an interesting one because I asked the question yesterday on Twitter. And by the way, Alec Pierce's brother, Justin, thank you to Alec Pierce for joining us. His brother, Justin Pierce, played at William & Mary and the University of North Carolina. He was not a grad transfer, but must have been a grad transfer, actually, because he played his fourth year at North Carolina, averaged over the course of his career 11 points per game, 15 a game as a sophomore at William & Mary, 15 a game as a junior at William & Mary, and then 5 points per game at Carolina. Now plays professionally, played in Europe and in Japan. But thank you to Alec Pierce for his time. The Twitter survey that I did yesterday was, of the 4 listed songs from the Rolling Stones, which one is best? The 4 songs that I selected, yes, I realize they have like 200 you can pick from. This one has been a bigger dead heat than any that I've done. I'm reposting it now, so you can go to my Twitter account. That's at Jake Query, JakeQuery. The 4 songs that I selected for people to choose from: Gimme Shelter, Sympathy for the Devil, Paint It Black, and the one that Eddie just played, Can't Always Get What You Want. Of those, Jimmy, you would go with which?
I was torn between Sympathy for the Devil and Paint It Black, but because of the length of Sympathy for the Devil, that's going to be my deciding factor. I voted Paint It Black.
Okay. Eddie?
I voted the song I came back with, Can't Always Get What You Want.
Okay.
What about you? Are you waiting until the poll's closed?
I really do like Can't Always Get What You Want, but I think I'd go with Gimme Shelter, partially just because of Mary Clayton as the background singer in that story,
sure,
which is pretty incredible. Sure. But it's tough, and it is interesting. I mean, literally, it is too close to call. We'll put it that way. Too close to call at this point amongst all 4 of them. We have tickets to give away. Is that correct, Eddie Garrison?
That is correct.
And we are giving away tickets for a November show of Kevin Hart. Also correct?
That is accurate. That is indeed the correct.
How would you like to do this?
With it being Friday, we'll make it a freebie Friday, so just a little get to know your listener.
Look at that. Little get to know your listener at 239-1070. That's 239-1070 is the telephone number. If you're wondering why, it's because for years this radio station was epicentered on 1070 AM as opposed to the 93.5 and 107.5 FM with which you now hear it. You can also hear it, of course, online and then in podcast form after the fact at the Podcast Center at 1075thefan.com. Are we going roulette style here, Eddie? This seems dangerous. We have phone lines lighting up.
We'll have to just because of the nature.
Are we going to do it on the other side?
Yeah, we can do it on the other side.
All right, other side, we will give the tickets away, and then still upcoming on the show today, Kyle Neddenriep going to join us because football is getting underway from around the state. We'll actually talk to Jimmy about that as well because, Jimmy, you'll be doing some games, correct?
Well, indeed. Roncalli Royals getting set here in about 2 weeks.
So we will talk to Jimmy about that as well with Kyle Neddenriep, and Kevin Bowen going to join us. Good for the Heart Friday as well. So still a lot to get to on this Friday. It's Query & Company on the Fan. I do love this song as well. Was never one of my personal favorites, but when the Rolling Stones played at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in, I believe it was 2015 or 2016, they sponsored a car that was driven by Justin Wilson, who was one of the nicest drivers. Probably, actually, Justin Wilson was the most genuinely kind driver that I have encountered in racing. And I recall, because he was driving that car, asking him about his favorite song from the Rolling Stones, and he said this song, Paint It Black, and then I actually bumped into him at the concert itself at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he again made a reference about wanting to see the song Paint It Black perform live. So I've always appreciated that song reminds me of those things, because he was a super, super great human being. All right, we have tickets to give away for Kevin Hart, correct, Eddie?
Yes, sir.
And we're going to do this based on Get to Know Your Listener.
That is right.
You have manned the phone lines.
Yes.
We have now. Do we have 5 or 6 lines? Because when I look over, I see that they're drunk. But then I think to myself, well, wait a minute. Do we have an open line?
Cinco.
Okay. Have you selected which number you're going to go with here?
Well, typically I select a number, but this time I think we have to go with the name of a particular caller.
Okay, we'll go. What line? What number are we going with here?
5.
5. All right, and we'll find out who that is. We'll go almost roulette style here, somewhat. You are on the air, caller number 5. What is your name, please?
Atari.
Atari.
Yes, sir.
Now, hang on. Now, whenever you tell anybody your name, Atari, whether it be at a workplace or a party, what's the second thing that naturally anyone asks? Huh?
Like the video game?
Now, how old a fella are you, Atari?
I'm 23.
23-year-old Atari. Okay, now hold on. Are you named for the video game?
No, I'm named after my dad.
Is your dad named after the video game?
I would hope not, but I never got to with my...
Atari, you sound like a cool dude. So have you ever played Atari?
I have never played the Atari.
Do you have an Atari T-shirt? I have an Atari T-shirt with the logo on it. Do you at least have that?
Yep.
Ah, there we go. All right, I like that. Now, how's your older brother, Nintendo?
Man.
I bet nobody's ever said that to you, right?
They said I should name my son Nintendo or Xbox.
Hey, Atari, we're going to play Get to Know Your Listener, all right? I'm going to begin with this. Are you a native of Indianapolis?
Yes.
Okay. In growing up in Indianapolis, when you were in high school, what was the high school that you most hated? Who was your rival?
Ben Davis.
Okay, boy, that leaves open a ton of possibilities. The high school that you attended, don't tell me the high school, but the high school that you attended, have there been a number of professional athletes that have come out of your high school?
Yes.
Okay. The high school that you attended, is the athletic nickname of your high school also used in the NBA?
Yes.
Atari, I'm guessing that you are an East Side guy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, at what point, Atari, are you most impressed with my skill in this game?
I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you. All right, Atari, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been listening to this program? It is Query and Company. I want to make sure you know you called in the right place.
Yes, I've been listening for about a good 6 months now.
Okay, and you enjoy the program, don't enjoy the program? What do you like or not like about it?
I love it, actually. I love how you cover multiple sports. I love learning about different, things of that nature. And then you also interviewed a couple people that I went to school with and stuff like that. So,
Juju Brent's one of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay, seems like a nice guy, right?
Yeah.
Atari, what line of work are you in now, or what does life have you doing at the age of 23?
I'm a heavy equipment operator.
Heavy equipment operator.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then did you get upgraded? Did you used to be the light equipment operator and you got a promotion?
Nah.
What sort of heavy equipment do you operate?
I'm running a haul truck right now. That's what I've been running.
Oh, wait. Are you in a truck right now?
Yep.
Like a big rig?
Yep.
Are you on the road right now? And please be safe.
No, I'm not.
But you're in the truck right now, right?
I am in the truck.
Can you give us a quick blast of the horn, Atari?
Well, my horn ain't working right now, so I can't do that.
What?
Oh.
Well, okay, how about this, Atari? We're going to practice because I believe in safety, Atari. Okay, right now where you said you're in the truck, right?
Correct.
Okay, I want you to practice something because I believe in safety, and you sound like a really nice guy, and I want to make sure that you're safe on the road, and I want to make sure since your horn's not working, I need you to do me a favor. You ready? Are you ready? Okay. I need you to roll down the window. Did you roll the window down?
I can slide the window open.
Okay. If you can slide the window open, do that. We're going to practice here. This is a safety precaution that we're doing. Are you ready?
All right.
I need you to kind of lean outside of that window that you slid open. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. And then I need you to say this. Look out, here comes Atari! Just yell it real loud like that. Can you do that real quick?
Yeah, say what again?
You got to yell, look out, here comes Atari. Just yell it out the window right now.
All right. Look out, here comes Atari!
All right. So now here's the thing, Atari. Now you got a horn, right? There's your horn right there.
Oh, man.
Atari, do you like Kevin Hart?
Yes, I do.
Well, I got news for you, my man. We are going to send you to go see Kevin Hart coming up in concert. Eddie will get all of your information. I got a lot of respect for not only the fact that you're going out and you're working every day at the age of 23, but more importantly, you sound like a really good sport and a really good guy, and I hope that you're able to enjoy the night out seeing Kevin Hart, all right?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, you too, and I appreciate you calling me sir. Atari is now officially the director of gaming. The director of gaming and over-road safety for Query & Company. That is Atari joining us on the program. See, you don't need a horn. You just open the window up, you yell that out, you play along. Atari's a nice guy.
I want to go back to something that happened there at the tail end, and I apologize for...
The window's also broken?
That too. I apologize for, generalizing you here, Jake, but I would have thought, as a man in the second half century of your life, that, still views himself or exudes the life of a younger man in terms of your overall morale, that you might not be in the camp of liking sir. I thought you might be in the camp of someone says sir, you're like, oh, sir is my father. I'm Jake.
Mr. No, that Mr. is.
Okay.
I think whenever anyone answers with yes, sir, I don't think of that as an age thing as much as just a respect or a proper manner of speaking. Yes, when I go somewhere and someone says Mr. Query, I'm like, no, that's my dad.
Okay.
But
right.
sir, I got a lot of respect.
All right.
But Atari seems like a nice guy. I'd like
Very
Atari
nice
to
guy.
come hang out sometime. And also, my friend Turhan, who, this sounds like kind of a weird transition because I mentioned the Justin Wilson thing, but my dear friend Turhan Donner, who was the first kind of in my group of buddies that we lost, when my buddy Byron and I went down to bring his car back home from Texas where he lived, his fiance was like, hey, go through, to be honest with you, any of his, and he had an awesome wardrobe, but she's like, anything that you guys want, take. And I have an awesome Atari t-shirt that was Turhan.
Nice.
It's just the Atari logo. It just says Atari. So
that's really cool.
For that reason, Atari, thank you, because it makes me think of that. All right, Alec Pierce joined us earlier. Colts getting set for the preseason. One note I want to point out before we get to talking about the game. I want to thank everybody that has done this already. But for preseason game number 2, which is next Saturday, in that game, if you have tickets that you are not using for the preseason, I know that if you are a season ticket holder, for example, you get preseason tickets and you don't use them. I have gotten in touch with the United Way and also 2 elementary schools in central Indiana that help disadvantaged or at-risk youth. And if you forward me the tickets, most people with tickets know how to do this through Ticketmaster, but you forward me the tickets to my email, and I am forwarding them to those 3 places. Send me a second email if you want a receipt for it. That is fine, I understand. But then we are, through those organizations, getting them in the hands of trusted adults, whether it be teachers or chaperone adults and mentors that will accompany with each ticket that is given a child that normally would not have the opportunity to go downtown, see a Colts game, go to Lucas Oil Stadium, and experience it. You can forward me the tickets, Jake Query, JakeQuery at me.com. JakeQuery@me.com. I have a radio email address too, but it's a longer one, so that's an easier way to remember it, JakeQuery@me.com. But we do know now, Jimmy, that it appears as though the Colts, in terms of their starters, will get a little bit of run and knock a little rust off when they get out there for preseason game number 1.
Yeah, we heard from Shane Steichen in his media scrum earlier today, 1 to 2 series, it sounds like, for the starters. Then he's going to let, the young guns get out there and prove themselves. And that was really what he illuminated us with when we talked with him on Monday about, as a coach in the National Football League, as you've seen a couple years ago, the preseason game total shrink from 4 to 3, and it limiting to some extent the opportunities you have to evaluate and get as much internal data as you want on a player that is fighting in the margins. It's fighting to try to make the roster as they cut down for the 53-man and they get everything set for week 1 of the regular season. But in terms of going into this initial 1 to 2 series that the starters get, I think that, Jake, it's important to have fair expectations for what a preseason game always entails, which is it's still impossible to simulate what week 1 of the regular season is going to be. And just that I want Anthony Richardson to look comfortable out there. There's a lot of different areas we can talk about of what we want to see out of the opener against Denver for the preseason on Sunday, but I want Anthony Richardson to look the same level of comfort that he has had throughout training camp, because this is still year 2 for him. Even though from a snap count standpoint, even though from a games played standpoint, he's still basically a rookie. This is year 2 of something he's already gone through. He was healthy throughout preseason last year, right? We didn't talk about him and struggling with injury until we got into the meat and potatoes of the early part of the regular season. So he's done this before. He knows what a preseason routine is like, and I mentioned it on Monday. He looks comfortable out at camp. I want to see that same level of comfortability. Yes, I want to see him throw good passes. Yes, I want to see accurate throws, and rather not have a ton of mistakes or miscommunications out of the gate. But my main bar for him, outside of staying upright in those first 2 series, is comfortability. Is that too low, or do you think that is fair, that you'd hope year 2 quarterback with all the outside noise, he just looks comfortable?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think the big thing, frankly, is do we have a cliche bell, Eddie? We should get a cliche bell.
Should I make it the sound from the Fish concert?
No, please no.
No, because that guy making fart noises, which was him just playing a vacuum cleaner, that is a horrific sound that people are not used to hearing. You probably should, because then I'll back away from using any cliches. But a cliche bell simply lets people know that here is indeed a cliche, or brace yourself for, like a cliche warning almost.
Where's Boo? Boo, are you okay? Boo?
What in the world is going on with that? People pay money to go see that guy doing that. You can go to any kindergarten recess in throughout Central Indiana and just find 2 kids on the merry-go-round, and they're doing
public
exactly
bathrooms
that.
to hear that.
Right?
It sounds like the world's worst roller coaster to ascend up.
I mean, have you not gone in to the restroom there at the Indianapolis International Airport? I mean, and people consider that to be music. But the cliche that I was going to say about the Colts is this: what you want to see is no injuries. That's it.
Yep.
You want guys to go out, play a series or 2, and they'll probably go out and go 3 and out. Who knows? But you want them to go out and simply be able to get what do guys always say? Well, guys just flying around making plays. We're just excited to go out there and hit somebody else, right? But you want them to go out and come away from it without any sort of injury.
So you're saying QB draw isn't the first play out of the gate?
It might be. They seem very fond of that, right?
They do.
I mean, honestly,
jokes aside, right? I'm obviously kidding, but yeah, that's. I know it's kind of bland, but preseason and training camp are there to get the rust off and to get into a routine and to be set for the start of the regular season. Anthony Richardson is not going to be judged based on he threw 3 incompletions in 2 series in the preseason opener. That's not going to define his career. Now, if he does a similar, obviously adjusting for snap count, but if he has 10 incompletions in week 1 of the regular season and throws like 2 picks, then yeah, maybe you start to get a little intrigued by concern or worry. But for right now, out of the gate, I want to see everybody look comfortable out there, everybody be set in this routine, and him stay healthy. The entire roster stay healthy, but especially Anthony Richardson, because as I mentioned yesterday, Jake, we can argue year after year about clear weaknesses on this roster. One year, it's lack of pass rush. The next year, it's depth at receiver. Then it's, in this case, the secondary, or who's going to be lined alongside Julian Blackmon. Either way, all of those holes that you're trying to plug, it all gets covered up if Anthony Richardson is the player they think he's going to be. And in order to be that player, he's got to get through the preseason healthy.
Here's the thing. If the Colts go out and everybody's excited, okay, everybody's pumped up, this is what they have to avoid.
The Colts are the people that are pumped up?
The Colts.
Okay.
You got Lucas Oil Stadium, you got the Denver Broncos in. People are having all of a sudden memories of great Broncos games of the past. Monday Night Football, first ever Monday Night Football game in Indianapolis, 55-23, Bill Brooks, the juke along the sidelines, Eric Dickerson, 4 touchdowns, awesome. Colts Broncos, right? Colts Broncos playoff game. Jake Plummer comes in, Broncos playing well. Peyton Manning throws to Marvin Harrison, makes the catch. Marvin Harrison realizes hasn't been touched, gets up, runs it in. Everybody's like, what just happened? What did we just see? Holy cow. Touchdown, Colts win, awesome. Colts Broncos. Peyton Manning goes to Denver, comes back, Monday Night Football, warms up, teary-eyed, trying to avoid the hysteria of the moment. Robert Mathis comes around, strip sack, actually kind of hurts Peyton Manning. Place goes bonkers, electric, Colts win, awesome. Now, preseason game, Colts Broncos. Colts come out, Anthony Richardson, draw play, everybody's excited. Holy cow, here's the guy. This is the new face of the franchise. Electric offense, Jonathan Taylor. Now they've got Alec Pierce, they got A.D. Mitchell. Yeah, Josh Downs is out right now, but he'll be back. Michael Pittman, tight ends. And they go out, and all of a sudden, in this energy of the building, the buzz of the building, roof open, you can hear it all. It's like a preview from when Taylor Swift's going to be playing that building in a couple of months. And then all of a sudden, somebody gets hurt, and the entire mood of the building sounds like this. That's what you want to avoid, right?
Yes.
What is going on with that? People consider that to be – people pay to go listen to that. What's going on there? I don't understand it.
They still have vacuum repair shops.
That's another thing. That's another thing. There is a place on the north side of Indianapolis where the Colts used to have – Casey Irsay used to have a frozen yogurt place. And don't get me started on that because I don't know what happened to all these frozen yogurt places. You used to not be able to swing
Orange
anything.
Leaf. What a time.
Every corner.
What a time.
Every corner in America had a frozen yogurt place. They were and I loved them. You'd go in and you think to yourself, well, this is great. And I'm going to go light on this, but it is yogurt. And then you go up and you weigh it and they're like, okay, that'll be $23. What? Well, we charge by the pound. The pound? How much did I get? Well, I had to taste the new, banana peanut butter flavor yogurt that they have. But they had one of those yogurt places on the north side, and I would go there and load it up with everything and then sit and they're all gone. The yogurt places they literally all just disappeared overnight. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they're now smoothie places or coffee places or chai tea. I don't know what they are, but they're all gone.
Boba.
The boba tea is the new thing. That's for sure.
That has the little.
Little squishy flavored balls in them. Yep.
Right next door
I understand
to
dangerous game. I understand it. Let it go. Let's move on.
Right next to the frozen yogurt place on the north side that I would go to, there was a vacuum cleaner store. And all I could think to myself is, who's in the market for a vacuum cleaner that doesn't just get on either end? I mean, God love it, and I'm all for independent mom and pop joints. But the people wake up and they're like, I got a busy day today, and one of the things I've really been in the market for a new vacuum cleaner. We have audio of one guy that's bought a vacuum cleaner in the last 20 years. Just the one guy, What is
That's also a lot of the reason
to go listen to that crap.
I think that's also the reason some people stop going to the frozen yogurt shops as well. If you play that and listen to a certain aspect, like you're back at a convention room restroom next to Jerry Jones, Jake. I think that's maybe some of the sounds that you might have.
Listen, NFL Combine and Jerry Jones, who did not wash his hands, and I walked in, and I walked into a Fish concert. I can assure you of that as soon as I walked in. exactly what I walked in on. Hey, Jake, maybe they realize this is Indiana and we're not a 12-month frozen yogurt spot. No. Disagree.
In my junior and senior high school, it was everywhere. Like that was the high school, like little Friday night date night. Maybe you go putt-putt and then you go hit the frozen yogurt shop. Like that was Orange Leaf was the place to be.
Hey, I had no problem going and getting frozen yogurt in the dead of winter. I loved it. But even then, like in Florida, they don't have the frozen yogurt places are all gone. Even in the warm places, they're just not there anymore. I think we just said to hell with this. We realize, sure, allegedly because it's yogurt, it's better for me. No, this is close enough. I'm just getting ice cream.
It gets undercut when I put 55 Sour Patch Kids in there for the health factor.
That's the other thing, right?
Sort of undercuts it.
Which I also another huge. You load it up, right?
Oh yeah.
The white chocolate chips.
Oh man.
Now,
little Reese's Pieces. Let's go.
The only thing I would tell you is you want to brace yourself because if for some reason you go to the frozen yogurt place and you're lactose intolerant,
exactly.
Or you know you're at a fish concert.
It's like I accidentally vacuumed up a sock.
My cousin tried to tell me that was like the Beatles. What?
In what way? That they were a band?
Like the Beatles in what way? You are correct. There's zero chance that has any relation to the Beatles. But the big thing for the Colts, honestly, is you just want to stay healthy. You want to make sure that you're walking away from it and you're not. Now, do you want to – I don't think you show your hand too much. Are they going to use Richardson on the ground? I would be surprised.
I also don't think they'll show a ton of what life looks like if Josh Downs is forced to miss some time. Like we asked Alec Pierce that about how does your role change, and he mentioned that he views himself as a versatile receiver, that maybe the snap count does increase, but I don't think you get a clear look in 2 series of what life is going to look like for A.D. Mitchell or for Alec Pierce if Josh Downs is forced to miss any regular season play.
We know what Anthony Richardson looks like running the ball. We know that he can do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What we still don't know is exactly what he looks like throwing the ball. We still don't know that. And when you are going to have a game like this, there's no sense in using the running part yet because, A, it increases the chances that he could be hurt, and B, you know what he can do there. So I don't think they're going to – now, I could be wrong. They may tell him in a preseason game, they may say to him, hey, if the play breaks down and you're going through your reads and nobody's open, take a run and slide or get out of bounds in these games. 2 series, right? 2 series. What's the total number of plays that Anthony Richardson runs in preseason game number 1?
2 series, I'll say 12 plays, and they wind up scoring a touchdown.
I'll take the under. I was going to go 11. Eddie?
I'll go 8.
So he's going under, and I guess so you want to set it at 11?
If they went 3 and out,
or 11 and a half.
If they go 3 and out twice, I think they probably go. Maybe they go one more series. I think you want to see him get, but their offense is such, especially with Taylor back there, they can get first downs quickly.
Right. Taylor's not going to play, I don't think.
You don't think so?
I don't think they'll put Taylor out there. I mean, he's going to have such a large workload during the season.
If you could pick one Colt that wasn't going to play a down in the preseason, it would probably be Jonathan Taylor for me.
When healthy, yeah. I mean, that's fair.
Like if you're bubble wrapping one,
and you
could make the case for Richardson, but he needs. I still want to see him out there just to get the rust off for a series.
I would think that Hull gets a lot of carries out of the backfield because you still want to see what you have there.
Yeah.
I think they were very high on him.
And Mayte made it seem like that maybe we are going to see more of the running back number 2, whoever that winds up being, if it's Hull or Sermon or whoever, than we expected.
That's Matt Taylor, by the way.
Yeah, Matt. So I apologize. Voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. He made it seem like yesterday in that conversation that maybe number 2 on the depth chart in that running back room might get more carries throughout the season than we initially anticipated.
Did you get a hold of Kyle, Eddie?
Yeah.
Kyle Neddenrip?
Yeah.
One of the things I do every year, and I'm going to have Kyle assist me in this because he's going to join us next. Is that right?
Yeah.
I like to find a high school football team that needs a fan, and then I get behind them. It was Beech Grove a couple of years ago. They had a really good year. Shelbyville, I'm always loyal to the Shelbyville Golden Bears. But a couple of years ago, I picked Shelbyville, and their season, once I declared that Shelbyville was my team, their season actually sounded a little bit more like this. It's kind of how it's kind of how it. But I'm still in on Shelbyville because that's part of my roots. But I need another team. We'll ask Kyle about that and get a preview of what's going to happen with Friday night under the lights from high school standpoint for the season. That conversation next. During the break, while preparing for the visit from Kyle Neddenrip, is going to join us just a second here, had to check in on my social media accounts. This from Jeff. Dude, do yourself a favor and educate yourself on Fish. They're not a vacuum farting band. They're wildly dynamic musicians that are an entire different level than most. Jazz, funk, rock, bluegrass, fusion, 40 years, same 4 members. Also, that vacuum segment is 30 seconds of a 3-hour show. They do it once a tour so fans cheer when it happens because it's hilarious. Jeff. And this from Ben. Fish fan here, and the vacuum songs, usually one during a 3-night run, is always one I go to the restroom. From the early 90s, it was funny. Now it's time to retire it. My daughter is 6 and was excited that they did it Saturday night because she wouldn't hear the fart noises on Sunday for her first show. Listen, I was in college from 1992 to 1996. Well, and then again a year ago. I'm well aware of Fish. I mean, you're not the age that I am without knowing of, and if you can't understand the flippancy and the sarcasm by which I'm talking about, then sorry.
You were being sarcastic?
Educated about
flippant?
Fish. The thought that maybe I don't know anything about Fish is like, come on, you know what I mean? How do you?
Obviously, you know the state fish Hawaii, so you know fish.
That's the Huma Huma Nuka Nuka Apuaha. Thank you for mentioning that. Kyle Neddenrip joins us now, and I'm sure thrilled to be doing so on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. We're just a couple of weeks from Friday nights under the lights. I think Indiana is a vastly underrated high school football state in terms of the talent level, but certainly the enthusiasm, because you go on Friday nights and, I mean, just packed fields all over. I love it. It's one of the things, probably the thing that I miss the most from doing local television on Friday nights. So, Kyle, I'll begin with this. We'll get the easy part out of the way off the top, and that is, and thanks for joining us, but the 3 teams of local within the area that we are expecting are going to be the best this year are who?
Well, I'm glad you're not asking me my 3 favorite Fish songs or something. I was kind of worried there the direction that was headed.
Well,
there.
Now, do you like Fish, or do you also agree they suck?
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a fan. My roommate in college was a huge Grateful Dead guy, and so I learned about the Grateful Dead from him. But Fish was not really on my radar. I would say.
You know what the Grateful Dead fan said when he ran out of acid, right?
What's that?
This music's terrible. I digress. Listen, I get it, man. I'm being sarcastic. To each their own, and I know that they are very, very talented musicians and people enjoy it, and that's cool. Like you do, it's not my style, but people like it. That's cool. So no, I'm not going to ask your favorite Fish song because you can tell that somebody's a poser if they say Farmhouse. If they say that, then you know they're a poser. But I'm assuming though, so when you ask somebody what's a Fish song that you like and they don't know much about Fish, they go with Farmhouse. Likewise, I'm assuming if you ask somebody who's the best football team in the area and they answer with BD, Warren, or Carmel, that shows that they're just going off of the surface and they don't know the nuances of it, right?
Maybe, but I would honestly, I like all 3 of those teams, so maybe I fit under that category. But I would say, to your question that you asked to begin with, I would definitely put, Ben Davis in that grouping. Obviously, state champion last year. They did lose a lot, including a lot of their defensive guys, and basically all their starting linebackers are graduated. But you still have, a very dynamic offense with Mark Zachary, who plays both ways, and then Elijah Price at running back. And a lot of their linemen are back. So I do like, and honestly, when we put out our rankings next week, probably we'll still have them at number 1. But, when you talk about programs that have been good over time. Warren Central is certainly one of those, and I think they're one of those teams I think is going to be in line for a bounce back season. They were only 5-7 last year, but their defensive line, and I always think if you have a really good defensive line at the high school level, really any level, but especially at high school, you can really dominate teams, and they have, about as good as you can find. Damian Shanklin, who's going to LSU, Tyrone Burris, who's going to Louisville. They've got guys like Jeremy Finch Jr., who's on that line. They've got Javon Guess, Marcus Bell. So they're loaded up front, and basically I think it'll come down to how much their offense improves, and I think it'll be vastly improved. So, both those 2 teams I think are fit that fit that bill. And then I don't think you can ever, not count Center Grove into that mix, even though, again, they're going to be kind of reloading quite a bit from what they had last year. But, with what they've done over time, and they were really close to potentially winning a fourth 6A championship in a row last year, losing to Ben Davis in that wild semi-state game that went to overtime. So that's almost unprecedented from what Warren did about 20 years ago. So for them to almost pull that off is pretty incredible. But they do, there are a lot of question marks personnel-wise with them, but I think you give Eric Moore probably the benefit of the doubt with what he's done there, and definitely put them in that mix. There's a lot of other teams though that I really like that. 6A I think is going to be a little bit maybe more interesting. It was interesting. It's interesting every year, but I think there's just a lot of teams that are capable of getting to Lucas Oil this year from our area in Central Indiana.
Kyle Netrip is our guest. He joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Kyle, I'm going to selfishly go down 2 classes, but it's arguably the top sectional in terms of pound-for-pound competition within that class, and that's in Class 4A. You have Bishop Chatard getting the success factor up from 3A to 4A, winning back-to-back state titles there. Burbuff, Roncalli, Mooresville, Danville. Attucks mixed in there as well. What can you tell us about Sectional 22 in Class 4A, and am I showing a little bit too much bias there by saying it looks like on paper one of the best sectionals in 4A?
No, not only the sectional. I just think 4A is going to be really, really good this year. You go up and down the list of teams that are in 4A. Chatard being in there now, moving up from 3A with the success factor. And New Pal I think is going to be better. They were basically, probably the youngest team Kyle Ralph's ever had there during his tenure. So they're going to be better. I think you mentioned. Danville, Lebanon's in a new sectional. They're going to be better. I think they can win that sectional. Roncalli should be, they would be better. I think they were young last year. New coach, that you never know for sure how that factors in. But they're never down for long. And then, Burbuff, I think, is maybe that team that, if they could get out of that sectional somehow, which is going to be tough to do, their offense was ridiculous last year, and I think it's going to be even better this year. With the skill position guys that they have, Maverick Geske at quarterback, but then, several other guys, C.J. Harris and Taylor Clark at running back and receiver respectively. So, they're going to be a handful, but we'll find out early on. They play Chatard in the opener, so we'll kind of get a sneak preview a little bit. But, yeah, I agree. And not only that sectional, but, just up and down the line, as I went through Class 4A, you go to Greenfield Central and, they've been trending upwards for the last few years under Travis Nolting, and Mount Vernon's just a really fast, athletic team. So all those, some years where you're like, man, that class is going to be, a lot of fun. I think 4A is one of those classes. And also, you have kind of the sidebar of East Central moving up to 5A. So they're out of the picture, and, they're losing a lot too, including Mr. Football from last year, Josh Ringer. So I think that could be, but we're definitely going to have a new champion in 4A, and I think there's a lot of really good candidates to potentially get there. But yeah, I'd agree with you. That sectional is really good, but from a broader standpoint, I think our area in 4A is just really interesting this year.
Okay, give me Kyle Neddenrip, Indianapolis Star. He's on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. A couple of other teams that are changing classes this year that may impact the power balance throughout Central Indiana.
Well, number one, other than Chatard, that's obvious one. I think Lutheran is the one too. They were, sort of the weird thing is they ended up playing 3 years, winning 3 years, I should say, in Class 1A, which, with the success factor, you wouldn't think that would happen. But, with the pandemic and things kind of got jumbled a little bit with that, and they ended up, staying in 1A an extra year and winning it again. So they're moving up to 2A. So, and I think they're still going to be really good. Jackson Willis is their quarterback. He's a Division I quarterback. I don't know if he'll start Division I right away, but I think he'll get there eventually, and could start there. He hasn't committed yet, but that's a team I think that, when you talk about the movement of classes, you got East Central going to 5A, you got Chatard going to 4A, and then Lutheran, going to 2A, to me is one of the most interesting. Just how they'll, their conference is really good, which that conference is going to be, breaking up somewhat at the end of the season, but they always get a schedule where they're playing a lot of 2A teams, some 3A teams anyway. So they're always, that's a program that's not really a 1A program from the sense of who they play normally anyway. So I think they'll do fine. I think they'll still be one of the top teams in 2A and potentially be a team that could be playing for a state championship again. But, to me, maybe that might be the most interesting is just how they fare now that they're moving up from 1A finally.
Who's the team when you look at, and this can be any class, or you can give a couple examples if you'd like, Kyle. Kyle Netrip is our guest of the Indy Star, joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Who is the team that's getting overlooked going into the start of the high school football season 2 weeks away that really could impress people or has the capability of having a nice, deep run into the postseason?
Well, people might roll their eyes at this because I know how the reaction to Carmel is sometimes, but I would say the Greyhounds could be that team. They were 5-5 last year and might be a little bit off the radar from what people are, maybe projecting this season. And I just think their top end talent is just really high on both sides of the ball. Their quarterback Anthony Colner started as a sophomore last year. And when I do projections and whatever for what they're worth, which is not a lot normally, but when I always look at who's got returning quarterback play, and Anthony got a lot of good experience last year. There's mixed results, but he definitely showed he can run and pass. And then Evan Parker, their offensive lineman, is going to IU, just a really good leader type player, really strong kid up front, and Ozzie Pollard too. Scott Pollard's son is one of their best players. He'll play some tight end, some line, some defensive line. He's one of those guys you can kind of plug in anywhere. And I just think they're going to be their receiving core is better. I think they're a team that we'll find out early when they play. They play Westfield. I think it's week 2, so we'll kind of find out just how good that they can be potentially. But to me, I think they're one of those teams that you never really think of them as a sleeper necessarily, but based on kind of their record last year and how good I think they can be, I think they probably fit that bill. I think they're going to be a pretty tough out this year.
Kyle, I need your help in this area, okay? Every year, and I think you know this, every year I pick a team that needs a fan. Now, here's my criteria on this. I want a school, and I'm being actually kind of serious in this.
Mm-hmm.
I want a school where the kids in that team work really hard. Maybe they don't have the luxuries or the resources that some of the bigger or wealthier schools have, but it doesn't stop the kids from going and working hard every day and chasing it and trying to get better every day, and the results haven't always been there for them, and maybe there aren't even packed bleachers like you see elsewhere, but they still are a good story because they show up, they work hard, and they simply need somebody to believe in them. And that school, each and every Friday, I will point out who they're playing, and we'll try to drum up some interest for them and just rally behind them. And it has to be a school that is a little off the radar or like within the station here, nobody else has a connection to, and it's just kind of out of left field, but they simply need people to know that somebody's behind them. Who am I talking about?
Well, as you explain that, I think I've got a good one for you, and it's Shortridge High School.
My mom went there, so I'm all in. Let's go. All right. Okay.
I've got to know Javon McCray, their coach, over the last few years, and IPS football. It's hard. You're not. They're facing 4A competition where they're not really a 4A program, I would say, based on the numbers that they have, the facilities that they have. But he's been there. I think this is his 6th year now, and he's really been able to kind of keep their players in the system, and I think just goes about it the right way. I like him, and I did a story on them a couple of years ago, just kind of as they try to build their program up, and kind of the struggles that IPS football has a lot of times, just when you're playing the Chitards and Roncollis and people like that when you get to the tournament. But I think they'd be a good one to mention, because everything you were saying there, I think it falls kind of under what you'd be thinking about.
Blue Devils,
that,
right? Shortridge Blue Devils?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
I'm all in. Let's go. I'm all in on Shortridge. My mom could teach me the fight song, the whole deal, right? I mean, my buddy Dan Wakefield went to Shortridge, the late, great Dan Wakefield. I'm all in. All in on the Blue Devils. There we go. All right, Kyle. So the 2 weeks from today basically is when everything really hits its frenzy, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks from tonight. Yeah, that's hard to believe.
It is. It is very hard to believe. Kyle Neddenriep, Indianapolis Star, where you can read him, and you can also follow his work in covering the march to the title of the Shortridge Blue Devils, which begins 2 weeks from tonight. Express Pro Tire and Auto Gas Line, where we are talking to him. Kyle, appreciate it, man.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
All right, there we go. I'm all in on Shortridge. I'll even get a Shortridge hat.
Nice.
My mom probably has one. I remember they closed Shortridge in 1981. Shortridge High School was closed. And, I mean, just the Daily Echo was the student newspaper there in its heyday. Dick Lugar went there. As I mentioned, Dan Wakefield went there. Kurt Vonnegut went to Shortridge. Widely regarded as one of the great high schools in the country, certainly from a public standpoint, but just in general in its apex. And then it closed in 81. They brought it back in different capacities. Absolutely beautiful building on Meridian. I'm all in.
I like the basketball arena itself. Every now and again, Roncalli will play a road game there. A lot of history in that building.
Oh, it's a cool building, right?
Yeah.
It looks like Shortridge High School looks like the high school that if you were filming a movie in Indianapolis about like it looks like the school in Back to the Future,
Sure,
right? I mean,
yeah.
It looks like a Hollywood set. Roncalli going to be good?
Yeah, I think so. First-year head coach Sam Otley takes over. They were a very young group, as Kyle Neddenriep mentioned. Last year, they go 4-7. It's admittedly a tough schedule, but they have a nice upperclassman-led group this year, and I think they're going to be fun. I think it's going to be a great year for them.
Eddie, your Hawks going to be good?
Yes, they're considered one of the favorites for the Class 5A state title this year. So let's hope.
North Central, work in progress. Kevin Bowen, by the way, joining us top of the hour. lyrics now. Of the 4 songs, which one is the best? Of these 4 songs from the Rolling Stones, Give Me Shelter, Sympathy for the Devil, Paint It Black, or Can't Always Get What You Want. Nearly 1,000 votes, and it is literally a dead heat. 28%, 27%, 24%, 21%. But I can't tell people which one's leading because that would be leading the witness.
Yeah.
Kevin Bowen joining us on the other side. A lot to talk about, including a good day today for a Colts player that probably needs it in practice. We'll explain. Set for preseason game number 1. It's the Denver Broncos coming to Lucas Oil Stadium. Kevin Bowen was out at their practice this morning. We talked to Alec Pierce in the 12 o'clock hour at 12:30. He apparently had a pretty good day at practice. That interview is available on the podcast center at 1075thefan.com. But Kevin joins us now on the Express Pro Tire and Auto Guest line. So, Kevin, let's begin with this. Alec Pierce, the word was that he had a pretty good day at practice today. Kind of breakout's the wrong word, but did the things that you would want to see from him. Factual report?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. And I would say probably easily the best day at camp now that I think about it, for both Pierce and A.D. Mitchell. And they actually played A.D. Mitchell a little bit in the slot where Josh Downs obviously mainly occupies. So really good day. Passing offense was tremendous. Anthony Richardson's best day. They really flourished. And yeah, in particular, Pierce kind of in his normal duties, and then, think of downfield stuff. And then Mitchell, I think he was targeted 3 times by Richardson, caught all 3 of those balls in a different position. You don't typically see that from a rookie. So, yeah, very good day for the Colts passing offense.
Kevin, I remember in talking with you about the game of golf, and you were saying that, it's from 100 yards in where the money's made in terms of just the pitching and putting when you're trying to master the game of golf. For Anthony Richardson, it kind of feels that way as well. It's not the long drives that you're worried about, the hitting off the tee, because we know he's got a cannon and can go deep, but it's the touch of the short game that, to me, I want to still see where he is in that, and knowing kind of when to reel it back and when to put touch on it. Are we able to tell that just through the practices at Grand Park and the walkthroughs and things like that they're doing as to whether he has progressed in that area?
I would say somewhat. I mean, I think, when you think about the quarterback position in a game of football, how many positions do you literally, in any sport, wear a totally different colored jersey than you will in a game because no one's supposed to touch you, and then all of a sudden they're allowed to, hit you as theoretically as hard as they want. So that's what I think is just different and unknown, and why I think Sunday it's beneficial for Anthony Richardson to even play a couple of series, which it sounds like he will. But, I remember, Jake, I think you and I had his quarterback coach on, Will Hewlett, back when he first was drafted. And I want to say he said something to the effect with us of, just he's got to work on knowing when to use his pitches. Not everything needs to be the 98-mile-per-hour fastball. Sometimes, 73 mile per hour with a nice touch on it is what is called for on this particular route, given the coverage or given how the play is developing. So, I do think just from an accuracy standpoint, like today he was 15 of 18. That, for Richard, I know it wasn't full pads, but I can't recall too many times in either last year or this year he has been that highly efficient percentage-wise in any practice. I would say for camp in general, again, if you want to chart it from a daily basis, he's probably a little bit higher completion percentage. And I know completion percentage is certainly not everything because, frankly, he's not Philip Rivers. He doesn't need to be 70% and dink and dunk his way down the field, because he offers such a big play element. You can afford him to be 58, 60% and live with it. But yeah, I would say, dialing back speeds, knowing when to use what. Yeah, I think we've seen some of it, but again, you don't really, truly know how it's going to look until you get him in a game.
The Fan Zone, Kevin Bowen is our guest. He joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Of course, you can find all of his work throughout the entirety of the Colts season at 1075thefan.com. Kevin, you've been having your Colts notebook throughout the course of the camp, as is tradition, with the setup that you have for training camp. One of the nuggets on Twitter that you posted was Nick Cross losing grip on starting job. And, of course, I don't want to send people to the website, but you mentioned how much playing time Nick Cross got in Friday's practice. Is it a matter of him not being the favorite anymore, or is it legitimately because of this being an open competition and Blackman's at least being a part of one of 2 starters, likely being solidified, that Nick Cross is the one that is there with up in the air about his status?
Yeah, I guess to play out maybe like a percentage game, I think Nick Cross walked into camp and in my eyes was probably, 85, 90% secured as the starter. And I would say that is much closer to hell, even a coin flip at this point. I mean, today, for example, I mapped it out in the notebook. Wouldn't that be a wonder if people actually went to the website and clicked on the stories? That would be great. But I'm not holding my breath on that. Nick Cross started, and then the next time the starting defense came out, it was Rodney Thomas second, and then the next time the defense came out, it was Ronnie Harrison Jr. So
is that because he struggled, or is that because there is that much level of talent behind him? Like, where's the balance between he has taken a step back and his competition has taken a step forward?
Yeah, I think it's definitely much more of we just don't have a separator at the top. And so probably in a way, I guess, maybe he's taking a step back. But I honestly think, I mean, has he ever earned the right to even, be in a position to where, like, it's his job and no one else's? No, I mean, I don't think his game tape would prove that either. So, I mean, I think it's very open. And, in the next 12 days, starting on Sunday, they'll play 3 preseason games and they'll have 3 joint practices. And, based off the amount of reps he took early on in camp as a starter, those have lessened. Those have decreased. Now, again, I think he's still probably the favorite and he's still the first guy that goes out there, but they've explored much more than they did in the spring and much more than they did early in camp. And, again, it's still stunning to me that, today was practice 10. Obviously, they're not going to sign anybody and play anybody in the preseason game before Sunday. I mean, that they will have gone, 10 practice days and their first preseason game without making any sort of move back there. Home run, single, however you want to describe it, it is pretty stunning to me.
Kevin, in terms of the number of series that we expect to see the starters against Denver, is any of that based upon how those series go? If they go 2-3 and outs, is there a chance Shane Steichen says, you know what, I want to keep doing this and figure some things out and give it another series?
Yeah, definitely. I think last year the defense started. Buffalo did not play their starters against the Colts in the first preseason game. The Colts did. Defense went 3 and out, and that was enough. Offense went 3 series last year in the opener. So, yes, I think certainly. I mean, if you go down the field and have a touchdown, whatever, 10-play drive and 80 yards, something like that, 75 yards, that could very well be enough. And, I mean, I found it interesting. Anthony Richardson at least hinted at Jonathan Taylor playing on Sunday. And, Shane Steichen said they'll sit like 1 to 2 starters. I mean, I would think Taylor would be one of those two. Like Taylor and Buckner are probably the two that come to mind for me. But I don't know. Richardson at least hinted at it, so who knows?
Do you think there's any chance, and I don't want to make this a bigger story than it is, so I kind of even regret asking the question, but is it safe to say Nick Cross did not do himself any favors in terms of setting himself up for success in this competition with tackling Josh Downs 7-on-7, or should I sneak out stage left and disregard that?
No, I think it's a very fair question and very fair comment. Trustworthiness, guys that make you sleep better at night, consistent decision-making, those are all questions the Colts have at that position. And in my opinion, the play was stupid. It was avoidable. Really had, I think, no business happening. So, when you think that was a decision he made and you already have the decision-making factor on your whatever prerequisites of finding a safety next to Julian Blackmon, that would not fall into the pro category for the Nick Cross camp there. So is it the end of the world? No. I mean, hell, he was at the starting defense today, but I just think it's another reminder of, when you put a player like him out there, you leave a little bit of that element in there. Certainly, what he did to Downs is totally allowable from, Sunday afternoon, but, doing it in a very 7-on-7 setting where Shane Steichen reiterated today, you don't take guys to the ground. I don't think that's a good thing for Nick Cross and the coaching staff.
If you're going to be over Freudian, which I will be here, Kevin, which is a truer statement? Nick Cross overstepped in bringing down Downs in that situation because Nick Cross is battling hard for a job, or Nick Cross is having to battle hard for a job because he didn't have the instinct or the wherewithal in that situation to know not to take down Josh Downs?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll cop out probably and say a little bit of both. I mean, the thing about it, I brought this up on the show yesterday, like back in the spring, we were out there for an OTA session, and Jalen Jones and Michael Pittman Jr. collided. There was Anthony Richardson both kind of went up to try and make a play on it, and Pittman took the brunt of it and was down for several minutes and ended up missing, the rest of the spring due to that. That, to me, was 11-on-11, 50-50 ball, two guys going up and getting it, not an outright tackle. Yesterday or whenever it happened, I guess Wednesday, that was, again, 7-on-7. That was no contest of a pass. I don't want this to act like these are two dudes colliding incidentally or they each had equal, opportunity at the ball. This was an already caught ball from downs. And by my view, when I saw Cross attempt at the tackle, I mean, I myself kind of had an audible ooh, that's probably not going to end well. And then sure enough, Downs is, really writhing in pain and had to be helped off without putting any of that on there. So, does Nick Cross feel some pressure? I mean, I guess how could he not? He's seen how his reps have decreased, sure. I also don't think, his play on the field when he has gone out there, I don't think it's full TJ Green. TJ Green would just have penalty after penalty after penalty. I don't view Cross in that light. But again, clearly, and, the first play of the Houston game was probably one last year of, communication and decision-making and whatever, not overly confident, however you want to describe it. I do think that has been an issue there. So that was probably on display as well.
Tell me how this camp, Kevin, you've covered a lot of them. Tell me how this camp is different than others.
Shorter. Yeah, definitely shorter. I mean, I think 12 practices total. I guess they'll have a 13th at Cincinnati.
And how many of those would you – and listen, I don't – in no way, shape, or form am I here to say that it's not – I mean, it's hot and it's gross and, I get all that. How many of the practices, though, would you list as super intense, just hard-hitting practices?
Well, hard-hitting, I probably wouldn't label really any of that. That's just the nature of today's NFL. I mean, again, there's no live tackling or anything like that. I mean, obviously there's physicality when the pads are brought on, but, I don't want people to think really anybody. At times, even in recent years, they've, put all the undrafted dudes out there, and they actually go through a rep or two where it's live tackling. I can't recall any of that this year. But, yeah, I mean, they've probably been in full pads 4 or 5 times. So, certainly those you would call more physical. Sunday, Monday, I want to say, that back-to-back was extremely hot. Both of those are afternoon practices. So, again, the NFL has largely dialed it back. I would say Shane Steichen has been a huge advocate of that. I think he's a big sports science guy and believes in, whatever the amount of rest or sleep, et cetera, is telling him is necessary. I mean, last year they had a lot of Wednesday walkthroughs. That's not something you typically see. And I think just as recently as a couple of years ago, those training camp practices would be, 15, 16, even more in a single year and really spread out. I mean, only 4 back-to-back sessions, none of them 3 days in a row. So, yeah, I would say just in general, a shorter practice time and much more spread out.
The Fan Zone Kevin Bowen joins us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. You can follow him on Twitter at kbowen1070 and, of course, find all his work throughout the Colts season on 1075thefan.com. Kevin, we discussed this a little bit after our conversation with Alec Pierce, but in regards to who fills the void with Josh Downs, assuming he misses some regular season time, I had said I don't think that's something that we get the answer to on Sunday. I think that's something that takes throughout the entirety of the rest of training camp and the final 2 preseason games after that to get that answer. What say you? How long does it take before we realize schematically what the Colts plan to do to fill the void, assuming Josh Downs misses a couple regular season games?
I found it interesting today that A.D. Mitchell was in the slot. That is not something that I would have guessed. I would have thought Anthony Gould would have gotten more of a look there, and even, Michael Pittman Jr. Now, Shane tried to downplay it afterwards, said, we'll interchange a lot there. But, when we've had guys on, I know you guys have had guys on, you asked Josh Downs, for example, what's the trait about A.D. Mitchell that, you maybe covet the most, and guys often describe it as he's got great wiggle. And so I do think, what's different about Mitchell than Pierce is the short area stuff. I mean, you think about a slot wideout, whether it's Julian Edelman or Wes Welker or Josh Downs or, those guys, it's just put your foot in the ground and boom, in a very short area, you can create separation. So I did think it was interesting today that Mitchell was in that role. But to your point, I don't think you're going to feel it until potentially Downs misses games because, lack of a tight end atop the depth chart, I think your security blanket is Downs. Like, I think he's that. I mean, he was Richardson's roommate at the start of last spring, and he's probably the one that Richardson's thrown the most with as well. So for all those reasons, I do think you are missing a guy like that. Pittman, I think we'll get a look at it come game day and things like that. But, there's not even like an Isaiah McKenzie on the roster where, into your jokes about McKenzie here, but, at least he was a veteran that you would have turned to at this point last year. There's not that obvious name. So it'll be something to keep on watching as the month of August rolls around.
Would you be flattered or would you be concerned if one of the things that people touted about you was that you had great wiggle?
Well, certainly depends on the profession. There are certainly
like if someone asked me, so what was it like in the morning when you do the morning show and get there early with Dykton and Kevin, and I'll use Dykton in this case, and I said, Mark Dykton's got great wiggle. Would that be weird, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to grasp you would get there early sort of notion on that end.
Anything before noon is early, Kevin. Come on.
Sure. Yeah, again, probably not. I don't know if that's the word I would want, or boy, that's a strong producer. He's got great wiggle. But football players, maybe employees of the Red Garter, maybe that would be something that you would look.
Solid, yeah. She's got great wiggle, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Sure.
I can work with that, right?
Kevin, do we have any indication?
What's the Red Garter?
Transition from there, right?
No,
Guys, put your hands together now on stage 4. It's Ashley who has great wiggle. Yeah.
Kevin, do
Jake,
we have?
Remember when the DJ at the Garter called in and said he was a P1 listener? You remember that?
Yeah, remember it. It's on my resume. Heck yeah, that guy knows great wiggle, right?
Hell yeah.
I'm all about that. No worries there. But which leads to the question of wait a minute, you work at the Red Garter. What are you doing at 7:30 in the morning listening to this dog and pony show, right?
I know. I was nervous to ask him, wait, are you leaving at that hour? Are you catching up to that
everybody has their own get hype mix.
Taking inventory is what you're doing, right? Yeah. Okay.
What's the Red Garter?
Eddie, come on.
Kevin, do we have any indication on who's going to wear Guardian helmets or not? Is that going to be revealed in the first preseason game? And if so, if there are players that are wearing them, does that mean they're going to be utilizing the Guardian helmets in week 1?
Good question. I'll be the one that I flipped over to Carolina, New England last night briefly. Maddie was literally like, wait a minute, football's back. I mean, she couldn't have been more irate. And so I quickly flipped back to the Olympics. Did anybody wear them last night in Panthers-Patriots?
I care about my safety and didn't want to upset Haley, so I've not yet turned on preseason football action outside of a couple snaps in the Hall of Fame game.
Do they have to, Kevin, I asked this question earlier in the week. If they're going to wear them, and for those that are unfamiliar, we're talking about basically the additional padding that goes on the external of the helmet that is believed to reduce neurological injury chances. If they're going to wear them, do they have to basically have them in, for lack of a better phrase, the paint scheme of the helmet as to not differentiate? Because otherwise, wouldn't you just have the receivers wear them so that it's very clear for Richardson to see which his guys are?
Yeah, I would assume. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but, the NFL is so anal about finding guys for uniform violations that would seem like a no-brainer. So I'd be totally guessing. I'm just guessing that not a lot of Colts players will, just because I don't remember, Bears and Texans that being much of a storyline, or even last night. So, but again, I'll be the first one to tell you I watch zero preseason football that's not the Colts. So I guess I'll find out on Sunday.
Kevin, tomorrow morning at 8:40 in the morning, Kevin Bowen is our guest. He's on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. You hear him, of course, from 7 until 10 every morning with Andy Sweeney on the wake-up call. You had posted this on your social media account. The 3rd annual Fox P1 Race for Awareness 5K hosted by Mia's Movement. This is going to be tomorrow at Our Lady of Mount Carmel at 8:40 in the morning. Probably too early to pre-register, but on top of simply the fundraising effort of this event for Mia's Movement that's going to be taking place tomorrow at Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Carmel, this is available on your Twitter account, Kevin Bowen. But take me through Mia's Movement. I believe you know this family, and a great fundraiser for a little girl, correct?
Yeah, thank you, Jake, for saying that. Yeah, I tweeted it out. So for those looking for the link, you can just it's only a couple tweets back. You can go to my Twitter account at kbowen1070 for that. But yeah, John and Caroline Dury, great humans. They've got 4 daughters, and Amelia, I believe their second daughter, has this syndrome. And well, I'll probably butcher the letters. I want to say it's Fox P1 or 1P. I kind of forget what the order of the letters and numbers are, but it's a very rare neurological disorder, extremely rare. And for this year specifically, the 5K, you could donate to the cause itself, help research for FOXY1. But additionally, this year, funds are going to be raised for a service dog for Mia down the road. So at some point, it takes several years, which I know you would find interesting, Jake, to train that dog to really, be her, with her at every step down the road. So I think it's a couple-year process. So obviously, when you think about that process and just what all goes into it, it takes a lot of money. So yeah, you can, if you want to, you could donate to the fund itself or that other additional giving opportunity, which again is for the service dog that she'll not have immediately, but will have here a couple of years down the road. So yeah, I have the link up on my Twitter, again, kbowen1070. If you can't make it out to the 5K tomorrow morning, there are some donating links on that website.
Kevin, in terms of, and appreciate that information, Kevin Bowen, before we let you go to get set for the weekend here, just an overview one more time. What we should be looking for on Sunday with the Colts and the Broncos, and as I always say, the most important thing is that you escape with nothing being added to the injury list. But aside from that obvious, maybe something that you want to see that is different than the answer of simply Anthony Richardson and the offense humming.
Yeah, again, 1 to 2 drives for the offense and the defense. That's the sound of it. I think other things to note, when you look at defensively, Latu, what does he look like in full pads going against guys that maybe he hasn't seen every day, and you just get a general feel for what their moves are, how you counter those moves. Obviously, the safety rotation, which we've talked about. Those young corners, Juju Brents, Jalen Jones, I think they're both kind of secure in their starting jobs, but still you want to see something from them. And then maybe just kind of depth at running back. Jonathan Taylor, I think everybody expects, hell, Frank Gore said that. So he said to Stephen Holder, he thinks Taylor could rush for 2,000 yards, and Shane Steichen, he's got vision like no one that Shane's really ever been around. But again, outside of those guys, outside of Taylor, really, what's the depth? Trey Sermon and Evan Hull and Tyler Goodson, how does that play out on the depth chart? So I think there are some other things to note. And then random Bronco of the day, how about Philip Dorsett is still in the NFL trying to give it a go with the Denver Broncos? So there you go.
Really? I didn't realize he was in Denver now. Okay, there you go. You can finally see Philip Dorsett break out at Lucas Oil Stadium. We've been waiting for it for like a decade. Kevin, appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend, all right?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Kevin Bowen joining us on the Express Pro Tire and Auto guest line. Eddie, how's the pineapple?
Delicious.
Have you been to Eddie Garrison eating pineapple in the studio here? It smells great. Have you been to Hawaii?
No.
Jimmy, you been to Hawaii?
Not. No, you?
I have one time, yeah. The Pro Bowl year, the Mike Vanderjagt liquored up kicker comment Pro Bowl year. And
that's great.
Pineapple does, maybe it's power of suggestion, but pineapple in Hawaii is unbelievable. Like it literally.
I don't think it should be, right?
Yeah, because and again, maybe it's just power of suggestion.
Sure.
Because it's like, oh man, it's so fresh. But it's funny because you see these people, literally everyone that you see. When you fly back from San Francisco, you see everybody in the airport, and it's clear that they're carrying boxes of wine, and you see people with boxes with pineapples in them because it's like, well, I've got a pineapple in Hawaii, and it's so fresh, I need to take it home, and then you think to yourself, well, that's what the grocery store is. It's stuff that they put in a box and they flew it from Hawaii. And by the time, you know what I mean? So by the time you get it home, it's essentially the same thing. But pineapple's great. It's, you know what it is? It's God's candy. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. It is.
They should really put that in marketing.
Eddie, is that your favorite fruit?
No.
The pineapple, by the way, the upside down pineapple is some sort of an adult swinger thing. Did you know that?
No,
I was wondering if we were going to walk into that territory.
Apparently, Jimmy does.
Yeah, apparently it is very common on cruise ships, I guess.
Correct. That's right.
So there you go.
How do you know this, Jimmy?
Because you, Eddie, I don't know. I don't know what you want from me.
Check his web history here. What's your favorite fruit, Eddie?
Oranges. Tangerines.
Oranges.
Yeah.
Okay. Jimmy?
Apples.
I don't know if you know that or not, but my favorite is actually apples to oranges from the two of you.
Well done.
I think I would go pineapple, honestly. Something about the sugary nature of a pineapple is pretty fantastic. Although I like tomatoes. Do you like tomatoes?
I like tomatoes.
Most people assume it's a vegetable. It's actually a fruit. Eddie?
I also like watermelon.
It's okay, right?
Oh, it's great.
Outside of gummy form?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. Well, we know about that.
Grapes.
Grapefruit
I'm not
solid?
a big apple guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big.
Is that
apple
New
guy
York
either.
or?
How about grapefruit?
I haven't tried it in a while.
Grapefruit's not bad. A little tart, right?
Banana?
Yeah, banana's cool. I'm down with some bananas. That's cool.
Just not in the tailpipe, right?
That's correct. By the way, it's a Friday, and we have Jimmy's Plays of the Day coming up in just a little bit, but we also have our Franciscan Health Feel Good, Good for the Heart Friday. A couple of things with kids going back to school that I think are important lessons that have taken place in the world of sports, and I'll let you know what it is next. It is a Friday, 2:30. You know what that means. It is time for Franciscan Health's Good for the Heart Friday. And I love that Franciscan Health has partnered with this initiative because it's twofold. The first is, as I've always said, there's so much just drama, negativity for all of us in life itself that I think it's great to start the weekend with just a story that you can say, you know what, I like the way that story went. It makes me feel good about things in the world. And then, of course, the most important thing, which is making sure that everybody, when it comes to their heart, is in good shape, taking care of their heart, because it is such an incredibly important aspect, goes without saying, towards your health. And if you are 40 or over and you have at least one of these risk factors for heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, if you are a current or former smoker, if you have a family history of heart disease, which I think most people do, to be honest with you, then you should be getting a heart scan at Franciscan Health. I personally believe that anybody should be getting a heart scan just to make and get a read for the amount of buildup that you might have within your heart. So I'll use that for lack of a better phrase. Each heart scan, which is very affordable at Franciscan Health, by the way, comes with a free heart health risk assessment. So that will, once you get that screening, which is not invasive, it's very easy to do to get a heart scan at Franciscan Health, then you get a true feel and you get the peace of mind of knowing where you stand in terms of your heart health. And you're doing it from a place that is number one for a heart program in Indiana for cardiology by Health Grades, number one in Indiana for interventional coronary care, and major cardiac surgery by CareChecks. There is no reason to not get the heart scan, and it is very affordable, as I said. Just $49. You can register at franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles. I know it's kind of a mouthful, franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles. You can simply always text me if you have questions about it, and I'm thankful for those that have, including Jason that sent me a thing, said my dad went in, and they immediately took him in to get a stent because they noticed that he had blockage within his heart, and the heart scan was able to do that. That's what I love, being able to have that awareness for people. So $49, franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles. You can always just Google heart scan Franciscan Health to make sure that you are taking care of your ticker. All right, let's go back to 1998. 2 years after the Olympics took place in Atlanta in 1998, but we're not going to be in Atlanta. We're actually going to take our story to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we have a woman named Marianne that thought, you know what, I would love to be a parent. But for Marianne, it wasn't necessarily in the cards for her to be able to have children. So she started going through in Tulsa different organizations to learn about and find out more about adoption. And she didn't know that it was going to happen as soon as it did, but she got a phone call from one of the agencies one day that said, look, we have two boys, Ian and Kenny. They're twin brothers. And they are not yet of the age of going to kindergarten, but they are in preschool, but they were abandoned by their parents. Their parents, for whatever reason unexplained, essentially abandoned them and turned them over to the foster care system for the state of Oklahoma, and they have been in and out of foster homes for the last year or so. And they are in need of stability in their life. Would you be interested in adopting these two boys? And Marianne said, you know what, I would be interested. And as soon as she met Ian and Kenny, the twins, she thought to herself, if I'm going to be raising twin boys, and in particular one of these twin boys that seems to kind of be acting up a lot, then I need to do it with the help of my own family. I need to do it by having a supporting cast around me. So she moved them to Rice Lake, Wisconsin, her hometown, where she had a lot of family. But she noticed with one of the two boys, Kenny, that not only was he acting up a lot, but he also, his movements didn't seem normal. So she took him to a physical therapist who ran him through a series of tests and said he has what's called spasticity in his legs, which is essentially a tightness or a stiffness of the muscles in the legs that comes from an early form of multiple sclerosis. And she said, well, what can be done about that? And they said, well, one of the things to do would be a consistent level of exercise. And that was good because Kenny, just because of the instabilities of going from foster home to foster home to foster home, kind of acted up and was always rebellious and rambunctious in nature anyway. And then everything changed when the two boys went to kindergarten one day, as Kenny tells it, because Mary Ann took her new adopted sons to kindergarten in Wisconsin in this new world, dropped them off, and then a strange thing happened at the end of that first day of school. She came back and picked them up. And Kenny tells the story of the fact that he knew then that things were different because for the first time he had the stability of somebody that actually was there, that followed through and said they were going to be there for him, and they were there for him. And he was not being abandoned, but rather he knew then that he, in fact, had a home and that this woman was now his mother. So she got him involved in racing to be able to overcome not just the spasticity in his legs, but also the activity, as was advised by doctors, to be able to kind of run off some of the challenges that he had in terms of being that rambunctious and rebellious young child because of the instability he had as a little kid. And Kenny went on to run and run a lot and run a lot more. And before you know it, he found himself one of the most elite runners in the world. And things did not go so well today in the Olympics for the 4x400 relay team. But for Kenny Bagnarek, who was one of the runners that was in that and already has obtained a silver medal in these Olympic Games in the 200, also ran in the 100, and is now a two-time Olympic medalist. It all began for him because of the belief that someone had in him and allowing him to run to overcome what he had as a young child, and now one of the most elite Olympic runners representing the United States of America at the international level with endorsements from the top track and field companies around, and being able to, as he says, he bought his mother a house that is bigger than even his own. And she said, you know what? With this house, I know each time I see it that the commitment from Kenny, the way that he has run and done things the right way, made this possible. And even if he doesn't win gold in the Olympics, he is always a gold medalist in my eyes in terms of being my son. And that's what happens when you have young people that have somebody that shows a belief in them. They don't have to be biologically related to be a mother or to be a guidance supporting cast to point young people in the right direction. And it's why, as we are getting ready to go back to school, I am so happy as well for those people who have contributed, and it's been a lot so far, their tickets for the Colts preseason game that's going to take place next weekend at Lucas Oil Stadium, because those kids from the United Way and the organizations that I've talked to on the east side of Indianapolis and on the north side that have at-risk kids that simply need somebody in their life to point them in the right direction, to show for them that stability, that belief. And you never know when a difference can be made. School is just getting underway. A lot of kids are just trying to find that stability like Kenny had as a youngster, and you never know who they might grow up to be. They might grow up to be a track star. They might grow up to be simply a doctor or just simply a good neighbor. All of that begins by kids seeing at a young age that a trusted adult was there at the end of the day as well as the beginning. And for those of you who have given your tickets and sent them to me to forward along so that these kids can themselves go to the Colts game, see Lucas Oil Stadium for the first time, see an NFL game for the first time, but more importantly, seeing an adult that went through the time to pick them up, to take them to the game, were there for them, took them home, and were there the next day when they go to school. That's what it's all about, and that's where you never know when you might be helping out what could be another future Olympian, or simply in the game of life, somebody who wins gold. And that's why I'm so appreciative for those that have donated those tickets, and we hopefully will continue to have them donate. You can send me tickets if you have them to preseason game number 2 for the Colts and you're not using them. You can email them to me at jakequery@me.com, and I will forward them along, and you never know which kid it is that you're making that impact and that difference that goes a long way. We'll come back. We'll get Jimmy's plays of the day and get you set for the weekend and hand it off to John as well here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Plays of the day on a Friday, brought to you by Greenfield Signs and Lighting. Greenfield Signs, a professional comprehensive sign company with 2 locations in central Indiana. They'll take hold of your designs, the entire project, all the way from initial concept to delivery. They're family owned and managed for more than 4 generations. Make a great everlasting first impression with Greenfield Signs and Lighting. Last time with the Olympic music behind us, we'll start first with action tomorrow. We'll take Team USA women's soccer to win outright over Brazil, that in the gold medal match. In that same match, I'll take Mallory Swanson of Team USA as an anytime goal scorer. Also taking place tomorrow in the afternoon, it's Team USA versus France on the hardwood for the gold medal. We will take Steph Curry over 14.5 total points. But in that same game, we will scoop 16 for France. I think this winds up being a tight one. Ultimately, Team USA does prevail, but we will scoop the 16 given to Victor Wembanyama and France. In baseball, we will take the Chicago Cubs to win on the money line over the Chicago White Sox.
We. Who is the we? You sound like a NASCAR driver. Well, we had a problem in turn 4. What do you mean we? There's one guy in the car. Now, who's the we? Are you consulting with people here? Is this you and your wife? Who's the we that you're taking?
I wish Haley had that level of degeneracy. I think I'm just speaking for the masses, Jake, but I can switch to I if you'd rather me go that route.
We's fine. We's fine. You're just assuming that everybody's following your advice
I
here,
assume
right?
most people are tailing me, but that's okay. Or fading me, I beg your pardon. We will take the Chicago Cubs to win on the money line over the Chicago White Sox. Last one for you, Jake. You know the drill. We'll take cute fella.
There we go. Hey, how about this? Root for us.
Well done. To win on the money line, the Baltimore Orioles over the Tampa Bay Rays. Actually, there's one more. I lied. The Colts are on the sports books. Give me the Colts as the first touchdown over the Denver Broncos. First touchdown scored on Sunday to the Indianapolis Colts. That at -140. Eddie, any bets for you for the weekend?
I don't think so. I'm going to lay off, yeah.
No plays for Eddie. Those are your plays of the day. I've enjoyed the Olympics. Been a good time, especially on the track. The United States has been dominant. 9 gold medals as of yesterday, I believe, for Team USA.
Bit of a snafu today for the men's relay.
Well, I had forgotten this, and maybe it's because the every 4 years cycle, but they did a montage of it. 08 in Beijing, 16 in Rio, 20/21 in Tokyo, and now this year in Paris for the regrettable snafu with the handling of the baton in 4x100 for Team USA.
2 notes in the NFL real quick before we hand it off to John, by the way, is going to be at Harris Hoosier Park in Anderson. Great chance for Blue Friday to go up there, have yourself a beer with. I don't know if it's a Blue Friday yet, but he is up at
it's Blue Friday in
Anderson.
Our hearts.
That's right, at Harris Hoosier Park. So you can go up, have a beer, get set for, or a Diet Coke, get set for the weekend with John coming up in just a couple of minutes here. But 2 notes in the NFL. Number 1, Juju Smith-Schuster. Looks like he just found out within the last hour or so that his time as a New England Patriot is coming to an end. He is expected to be released today. And in the most fitting story of all time, the Delta flight carrying speaking the New England Patriots, they had a preseason game, of course, against the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers plane, nobody was injured, so I can make a joke about it now, ran off the runway when it landed in Charlotte. Their Delta flight carrying the Panthers and their charter after their 17-3 preseason loss ran off the runway, and that's of any franchise that you think about and you say, which one is it most symbolic, right, to have an issue that runs off the runway, the Carolina Panthers?
Well, usually it's an issue with taking off for them, but funny this time it's landing.
They never actually do that, right? Okay, so John's up next. We will be back with you on Monday. We will be recapping what happens with the Colts over the weekend. Also, will Tyrese Halliburton have a gold medal? We will talk about that and much more. Mike Chappell will join us Monday. Thanks so much for listening to Aquarian Company. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.